forces.
Give us your likely scenario of what we can expect. Russia lose this war?
No.
Give us your likely scenario of what we can expect on the ground in Ukraine between now and Christmas time.
Well, I think that most of October will be taken up with assembling and positioning forces, though it's not impossible that some forces could take the offensive Russian forces before the end of October. There are some people who are telling me that the Russian forces that are assembling in Belarusia, White Russia, north of Kiev, are already prepared to enter the fight. That could be. But I think that the Ukrainians who are being bled white by these counterattacks are just about out of manpower. And when that manpower runs out, I would expect two things to happen. I think first, the Russians will then take the opportunity to attack. And I think they'll try to do it without ending up stuck in the mud. That means probably after the ground freezes. The ground is likely to freeze towards the end of October, beginning of November. So I would see this coming to some sort of closure militarily at that time. Now, I don't know what that means for the Ukrainians. We know, for instance, that the Ukrainian chief of staff and the Russian chief of staff had a phone call within the last few days to discuss how to end the war. Now, we don't know what came out of it. I mean, perhaps someone at the National Security Agency knows. I don't. But I take that as an indicator that the Ukrainians are nearing the end of their rope. Now, Zelensky, meanwhile, has been dropping tidbits of information to media to be reproduced in the Ukrainian media. One item was that he's having a group of scientists and engineers assembled in Kiev to put together potentially a dirty bomb, nuclear bomb, consisting of spent uranium fuel from one of their uranium power plants.
Well, even if that's true, they can't do it overnight.
Well, one would think not, but I mean, these are the kinds of things that are coming out. I mean, anybody that objectively looks at this stuff has got to conclude that Ukrainians are quite desperate. I mean, I don't know how many times I have sat in front of film footage sent to me showing convoys of hundreds of ambulances carrying wounded from southern Ukraine back to Kiev and further west, because all the hospitals, all the facilities to handle wounded near the front are completely full. They're overflowing. The Russians have actually allowed ceasefires along their fronts to let the Ukrainians come forward and pick up their dead and wounded and evacuate them. Of course, no one in the West will report that, but that's happened. I was frankly shocked, but that's what's been going on. This thing is not some sort of grand march to victory by Ukraine, quite the opposite. The real question is, how much longer will Zelensky survive this? I don't know.
We'll end with that. Colonel McGregor, always a pleasure.